Since the beginning of time, the desire to go west has loomed in the imagination of man, to chase the sun right out over the horizon. And there's no better place to do that than in the Kimberley. This place has the best sunsets in the world, and I'm going to be chasing them right across the Gibb River Road, all the way to Derby and beyond to Broome, and then I'm going to keep going out into the Indian Ocean, chasing my own sunsets. What better way to explore this country?
I don't think there is another track in Australia that elicits the same awe and respect as the Gibb River Road. I've had my fair share of flats over the years driving down these semi-graded bends, but it isn't amazing for its difficulty. What draws us here again and again is the sheer density of natural wonders that grace this 600-kilometre stretch of wilderness. Originally built in the 1960s to transport cattle from the stations east of Derby to be slaughtered, the road has become more of an adventure than a cow highway these days. There are still working cattle stations along the Gibb though, including Mount Elizabeth Station, where I caught up with Emma Bennett.
Mount Elizabeth, it was a family station for a long time, yeah?
Yeah, so Frank Lacey was a pioneer settler here in 1945. So he established the original homestead station, which is just a little way away from here. And then his son Peter and wife Pat continued the family tradition of running the station. They built this house here in the 70s and later then started doing four-wheel drive safari tours.
So it's still a working cattle station?
Yeah, very much so. It's really the balance of both here. So we're not a commercialised resort. It is about an experience here of seeing genuine life of station workers on the cattle station.
It's tough country here, and you see that pretty clearly if you go out to Wunnamurra. That track, it's not very long, but it's pretty brutal in a couple of sections.
It certainly is. It is definitely a four-wheel drive track. We did it the other day with two of our small children. That was an adventure and a half. It's about a 10-kilometre drive if you drive the whole section, and then you've got about a kilometre walk into the gorge as well. Most people love the experience, and part of the journey of getting there is that track, and some people do it just specifically to do that section of track. And if you get here at the right time of the year when the water's in full flow, it's absolutely stunning. Not that it isn't when there is less water, but it's phenomenal early on in the season after the wet.
It's a pretty beautiful spot though, huh?
Yeah, it is, yeah, definitely. We love it anyway.
When it comes to four-wheel driving along the Gibb, the track out to Wunnamurra Gorge on Mount Elizabeth is a classic one. It's only about 10 kilometres long, but that can take up to an hour. There are plenty of rock jump-ups here that can take out a diff housing easy if you pick the wrong line. There are some pretty mean scars on the rocks along the track here. It really slows you down though, and lets you get up close and personal with this landscape. But hey, any chance to get the D-Max into low range, and I'm in. The journey is definitely worth it though, when you first see Wunnamurra Gorge. Hidden in a wide dry plain, this deep waterhole is not only the perfect swimming spot after a good drive, it's usually all yours. In the middle of a trip as epic as a Kimberley crossing, I think it's great to have these smaller journeys into the thick of it, where you can really challenge yourself and have a nice reward at the end.
Wunnamurra Gorge on Mount Elizabeth Station is one of my favourite places along the Gibb River Road. There's a sense of esoterica to this place, or hidden knowledge. It's not the easiest place to get to. It's about a 30-kilometre track into the station, and then an extra 8 kilometres after that. Most of that's pretty cruisy, but the last kilometre or two is pretty rough and definitely full-on low range in the 4B, but it gets you here. How beautiful is this spot? Clean, clear water, it's always deep, nice for swimming here. You get a waterfall here that's actually earlier in the dry, running right over the caves behind me. It's just a beautiful spot. You've usually got it to yourself as well because of that gauntlet you have to run through to get here. So Wunnamurra, definitely top spot on the Gibb, one of the best swimming holes. Most of the time, you got it all to yourself.
I can't help but think, being out here under this sun, feeling the harshness of the environment here without the air conditioning of my Isuzu, how hard it must have been to eke out an existence 1,000 years ago. And it makes me realize that these waterholes that we course between today were far holier once upon a time. They were life itself for months of the year. the only water sometimes, for days in a long march through the country chasing game. And there is evidence, even now, of this ancient reverence.
Since the beginning of time, man has striven to achieve, or at least understand, immortality. That sense of lasting beyond your own time. Here, right around the corner from Wunnamurra Gorge, is a nice little outback gallery of some paintings which are probably 30 to 50,000 years old. Now these things record a time and a place that these guys saw back then, and it teaches us that the landscape hasn't changed that much in that time. There's wallabies and echidnas, and then there's the godhead here, the Wandjina. Now these guys you see all over the top end, from the territory right through the Kimberley, and they're essentially rain or thunder gods. And the repetition of these guys shows how important rain is to this region. Without rain, you don't get the waterholes. Without waterholes, you have no life out here. That's pretty impressive because this is essentially prehistoric art. This is showing us a path back into our history that isn't open through any book or text or anything, but yet mankind's early search for immortality is recorded here forevermore.
I know I'm not the first armchair anthropologist to stumble across these images, but I still feel a sense of duty to record them, to capture a piece of the human story. That we could still find beauty within a baseline level of adversity that modern man can scarcely comprehend. I think that's really inspiring, even when we have our own adversities to deal with today.
Welcome to the Gibb River Road. It's just a gravel road that cuts through the middle of nowhere in the Kimberley, but the rocks on this thing are pretty sharp. I reckon I slid around a bend back there and something must have sliced this tire right up the sidewall, and pretty much instant blowout, thump, thump, thump. And now it's time to do some work in the heat, but this is exactly why we bring two spares out here, because sometimes that's barely enough.
There are a few things that I will not leave home without these days in the D-Max, and that includes good off-road tires that are built to handle the abuse these roads can throw out. I always carry a couple different jacks as well. You can't always get the bottle jack under the car, and a high lift is really handy for situations like this.
One of the most important things to remember when you're out here and the wheels fall off, so to speak, is to just slow down. If it means making a cup of tea first, do whatever it takes just to step back from the problem for a minute, because all too often I see guys get out here and they do things in a hurry and people get hurt that way. So it's always worth just slowing down, doing everything the right way. So I've done everything I can safety-wise here. I've got two jacks to try and spread the load on this thing. Always put your spare up under the car when you're jacking it, or if you're under it at all, because that thing can catch the weight of the car. Might screw up your rims a bit, but it's better than dying out here. So little things like that can make every little bit of the process a little bit safer.
Now it's time to drop the new wheel on, get everything bolted back together, and go find somewhere cool for a swim. Fortunately, that's rarely too far away along the Gibb. I'm a fish out of water. Always have been. I love the desert, I love driving through strange landscapes, and I love water. Out here, I get the best of all those worlds. The Kimberley really is my spiritual home. Out of all the hidden waterholes along the Gibb though, there's one that has slowly grown to become my real favorite. It doesn't look like much when you first come across it, just a green hole in the ground. But Galvans Gorge is deceptive like that.
A few spots along the Gibb River Road that have always captured my imagination, and none more so than Galvans. This place, it's quiet, it's out of the way, it's only about 1 kilometer from the road, and it's hard to put into words what it is about this place that seems to turn on as soon as you can hear that waterfall running, as soon as you can see that black water here at the base of the cliffs. There's a big blowout at the top. There's water that flows here all year long. You can just while the hours away here and cool off from the heat. There's usually a couple of people passing through, but you can spend the whole day here and nearly have it to yourself. One thing about this place that's always fascinated me is the rock jumps. There's a few of them, high, low, anywhere you want to go. There's rope swings, and there's a huge jump off the top, which still scares the bejesus out of me. So there really is something about Galvans that just has captured my heart from the first time I came here. And every time I come back, I think I'll fall in love a little bit again.
Speaking of falling, the big rock jump off the top of Galvans makes my heart skip a beat every time I do it. It never fails. And I keep coming back to do it again. Usually after we egg each other on for half an hour or so to build up our courage. But if that's not your thing, you can just swim out to the waterfall and sit on the slick black rocks, swing off the old rope swing, or just float. If there was a Disneyland for me, this is exactly what it would look like. Now, a lot further down this road is a secret spot on the coast where I like to go spearfishing. The Kimberley coastline is one of the most magical in the world, and I think you'll see why.
One of my favorite parts about touring the Kimberley is, apart from the beauty of this place, just how wild it is out here. Pretty much anywhere you pull up along the coast or in a river, there's gonna be fish there. I love catching fish. Today I'm gonna be spearing though. There's a nice little point behind me here. Tide's coming in. Should be heaps of fish in there chasing the bait. So I'm gonna get out there, get wet. Pretty sharky, I'm told, but that's all part of the game.
To me, spearfishing has always seemed like the purest kind of fishing there is. You're out there in the elements, mano y mano as it were, with the fish. It takes skill and not a little physical training, and it feels more like hunting than anything else. Plus, it's downright breathtakingly beautiful around the reef. With sharks and plenty of fish around, it didn't take long to find a keeper. A beautiful little mangrove jack getting some lunch before the tide ripped back out off the reef.
I think one of the best things about spearfishing is that it's, to me, the most sustainable type of fishing there is. You pretty much go out and you pick what you want and you nail it. You're never catching any bycatch or anything. Today, I lucked out, got myself my first mangrove jack on a spear. This little guy is about 35, 30's keeper here, so probably gonna cook this guy up for lunch today, but nice little fish. First one I've seen out in the salt as well. Just goes to show how wild this place is. There's so many species in the water there. There's rays, blue spotted rays, so many reef fish, and yeah, even the occasional jack.
Like the sun on its endless journey, I was determined to keep heading west over the horizon. So I caught up with the guys from Kimberley Expeditions. They run a 38-meter custom-built expedition yacht, the Reef Prince, for exploring the Kimberley out of Broome. We headed dead west overnight, a massive journey out to the Rowley Shoals.
Standing here in the middle of a coral atoll about 260 kilometers from the west coast of Australia, it feels like I'm at the edge of the world itself. This is the Rowley Shoals. There's 3 ring atolls sitting in about 400 meters of water out here, rising straight up to pretty much dry reef. And that makes this one of the most unique dive sites on the planet. Inside of these rings, it's a virtual aquarium for divers and snorkelers. There's so much life here. It really feels like you're in a world apart, a different place. And everything about this entire system just screams adventure.
It's hard to describe the sensation of floating in a world full of color, full of life that's so alien to us, and yet feels so much like coming home. The Rowley Shoals are one of the wildest, most untouched reef systems in the world. Many species are protected here, including coral trout. I don't think I've ever snorkeled somewhere that felt so utterly alive. This is what lies over the horizon. This is the kind of blue adventure that awaits us if we have the courage to take that first step and the gas to keep going. Back in the D-Max though, the journey never ends, and you never know what's going to happen next out here.
Adventure is a funny thing, isn't it? No one ever sets out from home, packs all their gear in the four-wheel drive, and goes, I hope some really bad, really complicated stuff happens on the road. And yet, this is the great paradox of human memory and human storytelling is when you get back home, it's a year later, and your mates ask you, how did the trip go? What we tell them is the day that we had 4 flat tires, or the car burst into flames, or something happened, someone hurt themselves, and there was this epic journey to get out of it. And it's funny that how when the wheels fall off, those are the stories that we remember, because those are the days that lessons are learned. It's that sense of adventure, that sense of maybe impending doom, that keeps it all interesting, that keeps us a little bit scared out here, and ultimately maybe just gives us something to laugh about later. Someone once said that life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And that's never more true than out on the road. Out here, the devil fools with the best laid plans. But like the I Ching said as well, before great brilliance, there must be chaos. And I think out here, the best thing you can do is embrace the chaos and have a big adventure. A friend gave me an elephant for my birthday. I said, thanks. He said, don't mention it.